Hi, this is Jason from Effective Maintenance Dashboards and welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to add a trend to our report. We're going to start adding some trends. So up until now, this dashboard that we've created, and if you want to learn how to create this dashboard step by step, then I'll leave a link below. It's at effectivemaintenancedashboards.com. You can sign up for a free course. But up until now, it's really just been the number of work orders and the hours and the work orders sliced by different categories like priority and the number of days in backlog at the current point in time, or at the most recent data point. So what we want to do now is add in a trend, or start adding in some trends. So on this page here, we've got the list of work orders. We've got a schedule readiness chart here with some conditional formatting. And what I'd like to do is add in a little bit of a mini trend here next to this this work orders here. So trends are important. We want to know what the current value is, but we also want to know, are we over the last month, are we increasing or decreasing the backlog? So are we heading in the right direction towards our target values? So what I'm going to do is just create a little create a new page, and the first thing we need to do is add a dates table. Now I'm just going to very quickly do this. There's a video which I'll leave a link for on the video, and below as a YouTube video explaining how to create a dates table and why it's important. So I'm just going to go and create one. So here's some code here, so I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to do it quite quickly, but the so we're going to go to get data, blank query, and I'm going to go to Advanced Editor, and I'm going to paste the code that was on the text file, which you will get a link to when you look at the why we create a dates table video that I've got. And that's going to go, and I'm going to create, we're going to enter a range here for the dates table. So the dates table creates a continuous range from the start date to the end date that you specify. And we'll do this up until the end of this year here, 2020. The start of the financial year is just going to be January. I'm just going to invoke that query there. So you can see here we've got a date for every single day, and these are the categories that you can slice the date by. So I'm going into this in a lot more detail than the other one. We're going to just go and call this dates, and just going to close this. Okay, so that's going to create a dates table. That'll be very quick to load that in, and that's going to allow us to use a continuous range of dates as an x-axis. And just need to check here to make sure that this dates table is actually connected. So we want to create a connection between the dates table and our work order variables data, which is here, and we're going to create this link to the extract date, data extract date. So we've now got a one-to-many relationship between the work order variables data table here and the date. So once we've done this, we can go back to our model, and we'll go, and it makes it dead easy just to go and create a trend here. So I'm going to use the dates, and one other thing we need to do here is we need to make sure that this is marked as a dates table, and that's very straightforward. Mark as dates table from when you click on the value here, and that just tells Power BI that this is a continuous range. You've got to tell Power BI which date is going to be the continuous range of dates. It will verify that that is the case, and now you've got a date in here that we can use as the axis, and we want to see the backlog count. So we go into our work order variables, and we've got a measure set up for backlog count, and that's going to be the value. Okay, and we can see that that's created a date range. Now we've only got a month's worth of data here, so we don't need to put any filters on it, and we've created this. So that's just got the table, the trend here. Now I want to create a mini trend. I want to create a bit of a mini trend because we don't really need to know for the application I'm going through here. We don't really need to know the numbers. We just want to know the overall trend. So what I will do is turn off some of the axis. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the title, and then I'm going to turn off the whole axis, and then I'm going to do the same with the y-axis. I'm going to turn off the title, and then I'm going to turn off the axis. Then I'm going to change the data color. I want to make this a little subtler. So we go to data color, and I'm going to choose this one here. And that's just a little bit of a subtler. You can still see it, but it's not as in your face as the black color was. And then we are going to go to data labels off, shapes off, title off. We'll turn the title off, and we're going to resize this to. In fact, we'll turn the visual header off as well, and we're going to go and resize this. And to do that, we're going to go into these values here, go to general, and I want the width to be, say, 200, and I want the height to be 80. Okay, so this is a mini trend here. We're going to delete this page, but I just wanted to create a little bit of space so we can create this mini trend. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to add it to this page here. And I'm going to add it next to the backlog figure there. Okay, so you can use the arrow keys just to position this in a bit of a better position. I'm going to move that across a bit, and yep, that's looking a little bit better. So we've got now our value, which should be the last data point here, yeah, 682. So we can see the current value, and we can see what the trend has been over the last 30 days. So the next thing I want to do is add a little bit of additional information here. But before I do that, I've actually started recently to soften these cards here by adding in a curved corner. So let me just do that first of all. So we go back to format, and we type in radius. Right, so we've got switch the borders on. So let's go and just show you what that is. Under border, we'll switch the borders on, and the border is going to be white, but the radius is going to be, let's start with 10. We can see it just softens the edges there, which I think is a bit easier than that on the eye. Let's do the same with this one here. So we'll switch the borders on, make sure the borders are white, and we'll change that radius to 10 as well. And we can see it just looks a little bit of a bit nicer. Okay, so I now want to add a highlight to the first and the last colours here. I just wanted to call out the first and last colours here because I think it just sets the mini trend nicely when you can do that. So to do that, I'm going to add a measure. So the measure I'm going to add is, let's go to Conditional Format Measures, go in here and add a new measure. And we're going to call this one Conditional Formatting Backlog Count Highlight First and Last Data Points. A little bit of a long one, but it explains exactly what it is. And the first thing we do is we define a variable to get the first date. So we'll call this one fDate, and that is equal to, we're going to use this function called first non-blank, and we want to get the first non-blank value, and we can see here as an input, it takes a column name and an expression. So it's going to look through this column name and it's going to apply an expression or a value and expression here and find the first non-blank value. So the column name is going to be dates and date. So we're going to go through the column of dates and we're going to look for the first date which has got a value for backlog count, because backlog count is the value we've got on our graph, and that's going to be a date, and it's going to return that date. Next we're going to find the last date, and that's going to be the same, but we're going to use last non-blank. Last non-blank. There we go. And we're going to find the last non-blank for the date for the backlog count. There we go. Okay, so we're going to store both of these as variables. Next we're going to calculate the result. And that is going to be equal to, we'll use an if statement. If, now actually one thing I need to do that I've just forgot is I need to put in an all selected here. All selected. Okay, so all selected only considers the current selected dates. Okay, so it's going to look through all the dates that are currently selected, and then it's going to look for that's going to be the list of dates. It's going to be that's going to be the list of, or the column, and the filtered column that is then going to be the date, the sort of the range of dates that first non-blank is going to iterate through, and it's going to find the first non-blank value or the date where there is the first value for backlog count. So if you remember, we created a backlog, we created a dates table, and that dates table started on the 1st of, let's just explain this a little bit, because it did actually take me a little bit of a while to get my head around this. So without the all selected, what will happen is that it will find the first non-blank, it will consider the whole date range. It will consider the whole date range, and we don't want to consider the whole date range. We usually just want to consider the date range that we've got in our actual table. Okay. So all selected is going to be the dates that have been selected, and then we will do the same here. All selected. Now we don't actually have a filter on this date range, so it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. But I just want to make sure that if you use this in your dates, you will only consider all of the dates that are selected in your chart. So next, now we've got the date of the first value and the date of the last value for all the values selected in our chart, or in the current filter context. We will now go and find the max of the dates selected. Max dates date, and if that equals the f date. Now we're using max of dates, but it could be min of dates, because this is going to be evaluated on a if you can think of the graph we've got, there's a data point for each day. So the if statement is going to look at each day, and it's going to take the max of that day, which is going to just be the value on that day. We could usually use the min. It's just a way of passing or using a function to allow us to build this into the if statement. And if that date equals the first date, so first of all it's going to check, is this date equal to the first date, which is this date here we've already defined. If it is, we're going to set the conditional formatting to be hashtag 808080, which is the kind of grey colour. We got close brackets here. Otherwise, if it's not, check to see if max date if max, there we go, state equals the last date. So we're going to now check if it's not the first date, is it the last date? And if it's the last date, we're going to go and we're going to highlight that as 808080. That's a colour. And if it's not, then it'll just be the default for a false in an if statement is just to leave it blank. And then finally we're going to return, and then we're going to return the result. Okay, so let's just tick this and make sure that I haven't made any mistakes here. Let's just tidy that up a little bit there. Right, so this is the conditional format we're going to apply to our table. So we go into our graph. Now we go into the graph. This is another little trick that we need to make sure that that's interesting. So if we click on the graph, go to format, go to conditional format and colors. Look at this. There's not an option there for this to conditionally format the data colors. However, if you change this to a start column, right, so we're going to see a start column here. There is an option. So we go into that option, select conditional formatting. We're going to use a field value, and we're going to use the field value is going to be first. Here we go. Backlog count. Highlight first and last. And we can see here these first and last values have been highlighted. Okay, you can see that there. And then what we do is we change it back to our line chart, and lo and behold, we've kind of hacked the system, and we've got the first and the last values highlighted. So that's a really useful way of highlighting specific data points on this graph here. So you can see it just calls it out a little bit. We can see the start, we can see the end, draws the user's attention to that. And then the final thing we're going to do is we're going to add a trend line. So we're going to go in here, and there's a button here called Analytics, and this allows you to add trend lines, constant lines, min, max lines, all sorts of different trends here. And we're going to add a trend line. Just going to add trend, and we're just going to pretty much leave it as it is, make it slightly subtler, and there we can see we've now added in a mini trend, and we can do the same for our backlog hours, and I will, but I don't need to go into it in the video. It's long enough as it is, probably longer than I thought it would be. So hopefully you found this useful. Just to add a little bit of a trend here, and we can see the backlog figure is at, just now, number of work orders is at 682, and it started at 693, and it's now down at 682. So it's been and we can see the trend is reducing over time. Okay, so hopefully you found this useful. There's a few ideas in here for you to add conditional formatting to a line graph, to create a line graph and add conditional formatting, specifically highlighting the first and last colors. If you like the video, then give it a thumbs up and a like, and that would be much appreciated. And if you'd like to keep up to date with some of the new videos that I'm going to be releasing, basically weekly, then hit the subscribe button, hit the bell if you want to get an email or a notification, and I'd really appreciate that. That would help me out a lot. And I will talk to you in the next video. Thanks for listening.